Welcome to another Hear and See production. This is a fun episode. We are going to talk about the 5 movies that inspired me the most in 2023. So, as a filmmaker, you might say that I'm a film junkie. I'm obsessed with film. I love the craft. I love watching movies. In 2023, I gave myself the goal of watching 300 movies. And I got pretty close. I watched 275 to 80 movies. So I didn't quite hit 300 because, I got married and, I have a family. And so life changed for me in the best ways. But I watched a lot of movies. And what that does is if you want to be great at anything, you got to study your craft. You got to put in the hours to learn what other great people are doing, what your industry is buying and paying for, what audiences want to see. And so it also helps you see how stories are written and crafted and, plot twist and how things are revealed to the audience in different ways, different genres. Like I watch more horror movies than I had before. I watch more comedies than I had before, more sci-fi movies, more romantic comedies, like just diving in and understanding the rules of a genre, because there's certain things that happen in a script that make a genre specific movie. And so without knowing what happens in those genres, you're really kind of limiting yourself as a filmmaker. So I would say of all the movies I watched last year, there are 5 movies that inspired me as a filmmaker. And I don't mean that these are my 5 best movies. Honestly, the 2 movies I put as my top 2 movies of the year for 2023 didn't make this list. So it's not about what's best or the greatest or the best awarded film. It's just these are the movies I related to that inspired me as a filmmaker. Number 5 on that list for movies that inspired me in 2023 is Poor Things. Poor Things was a movie that left me shocked. It's very, let's just say, a lot of grotesque things happening, a lot of weird things happening, but what I realized is it didn't let the gratuity of the movie get in the way of a powerful story. Like I think in other movies like Saltburn, it was hard to stay with the movie because some of the scenes were just so gross and so just out of pocket that like it checked you out of the story. Within this movie, the sex scenes and the different characters, what they were going through, were all a part of the storytelling that Yorgos, the director, was trying to explain. And by walking with Emma Stone playing Bella Baxter, you got to see the world that she was maneuvering in and see how different men wanted to manipulate her and controlling her with what they thought was love, or trying to mold her into a woman that they think she should be, and how the patriarchy sets a world up that does not allow a woman to grow in a way that is natural of their own free will. And I don't think we would have got there in a creative, fun way if it wasn't for the way that this movie kind of flipped normal society customs and norms on its head. And that's what I took away from Poor Things, and the writing in it and the cinematography, the colors, the way they use LED walls to make it feel like they were on the ocean even though they wasn't, really stuck with me the second time I watched it. And so it's a movie that just from the very beginning, the different lighting and different aspect ratios where they start in black and white and then move to Technicolor when she's experiencing the world, the different fisheye lenses they use to make your character feel like they're, like really trapped, and just different creative techniques that weren't over the top, but just added a little touch as a filmmaker to help the audience know exactly what they wanted you to feel, even though what you watching was really out of this world and weird. And so Poor Things really challenged me as a director to think about how can I create stuff like that, maybe not as to that level or to that scale, but use those techniques in my next project or future projects. But moving on to the 4th movie that inspired me in 2023, and that is A Good Person. Now, a lot of people may not know this film as much as Poor Things, but I think it is one of the most well-written movies I watched last year. It's a strong cast with Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman. And I'll just tell you the premise is Florence Pugh is a character who is engaged to Morgan Freeman's son. and she is driving a car with him in it and her future sister and brother-in-law in the back seat. She's texting while driving, not paying attention. She runs into a truck, and her brother and sister-in-law are killed instantly. Of course, the trauma, the grief, the pain from feeling like you caused this accident leads you down a dark path. So in A Good Person, Florence Pugh's character wrestles with the idea of both physical pain and internal pain. So she subscribed medicine for the physical pain she sustained in the accident. But what happens when she no longer has that pain a year later? She's not married now. She doesn't have a job, but she still is reliant on medication to get her through the day because she's trying to numb out all the emotional pain that she's still feeling. And this leads her down a dark road of addiction, of grief, of being an addict that only her former father-in-law can pull her out of. Only the person she hurt can help her see that she's still a good person, even though she did something that was horrendous, and even though she's in her darkest and lowest place ever. So this movie streaming on Amazon Prime, and a thing that stood out to me about this movie was, again, just how strong writing a good story can be with strong actors and telling grief in a way that's accessible. Because I don't personally struggle with addiction. I haven't had anyone in my family that does, but watching that movie, I could see just how quick someone can go from being a person who has everything together in their life, about to get married, working a good job, a life event happens to them. Now they're addicted to painkillers. Now they're looking for other substances, and it's ruined their entire life, and they don't know how to get back. And that was like, wow, like, man, you wrote this story in a way that is just full of tears, full of emotions, and put some strong actors like Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman to bring those characters to life. So I would say if you're looking for a good cry movie or just a good, just strong storytelling start to finish, check out A Good Person on Amazon. Moving on to our number 3 movie, They Clone Tyrone. Now, if you've seen They Clone Tyrone, you know exactly why this movie is on this list. This movie is hilarious. The acting is strong. The message is strong. Just everything about it really struck me, because the premise of the movie is about real people. Like, what you don't understand, what you might have missed, is that the government and the way they interact with this neighborhood in this movie is they're cloning stereotypes of black people and planting them in the community to harm their own community. So if you're a pimp, if you are a ratchet woman that just wants to tear things down, if you're a drug dealer, if you're a chicken establishment, like, just, you know, drugs and gang violence, like things that you think about when you see stereotypical black movies, but through They Clone Tyrone, they use it in a way that is haunting but realistic, in a way of like, yo, if we don't stop being our own worst enemy, then how are we ever going to grow as a society? How are we ever going to be more than a stereotype? How are we ever going to show up as different characters and different people that allow our communities to flourish and to grow? And so I think They Clone Tyrone should have got a lot more awards, in my opinion, should have got a lot more credit for the story it told. I thought it was ambitious. I thought it was a really cool kind of like black sci-fi vibe, but also had this realistic take that I feel like a lot of people could relate to, and not in a way that bashed the hood either. Like, in the end, spoiler alert, there are hood people that come up and save the day, and they protect their own turf. And I think that's the message, is that, like, it's not about being good or hood or bad or being something better than where you come from. It's about taking ownership of where you come from and protecting those around you, and not being the stereotype that preys on those around you and that lifts yourself up and props yourself up off of hurting the people who look like you. And I think They Clone Tyrone is one of those movies that every person of color should watch, and every person in general should really watch, because it really has a strong message about neighborhoods and communities of people of color and poverty, and the people who are hurting those people in those areas versus the people who are profiting off of it. So They Clone Tyrone, one of the best scripts I've seen in a while. Hilarious. Jamie Foxx was so funny, and it's one that is on Netflix streaming now, so you should definitely check out. The number 2 movie on my list, a lot like They Clone Tyrone, helps you see how somebody can be in this situation and do the things they do because of the environment they're in. And that is 1001. The movie 1001, shout out to Tiana Taylor, one of the best performances of any actresses in any movie this year. She plays this raw, emotional mother who is trying to do everything she can for her son. And without giving away, this movie has a twist that you will not see coming that completely changes everything that you think about this relationship and this movie. And I just think it's a very raw New York, Harlem, Brooklyn style movie that shows, how a mother will do anything for her son in this environment. But also, it doesn't just tell it from a place of trauma and hurt and pain. It tells it from a place of like uplifting, encouragement. Like, we can overcome any odds together. As long as we got each other, the world can be against us, but we're going to succeed no matter what. And I feel like Tiana Taylor was embodied that strong Black mother. I can do anything for my son really well. And the child actor was really great. And it was just a story that felt like really stuck with me from like a really just good movie. And I don't think enough people saw it last year. So shout out to 1001 for being number 2 on inspirational movie for me and really challenging me to be a better screenplay writer. But it is not number 1 because number 1 actually won an Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay, and that is American Fiction. Man, when I tell you American Fiction was fire, flame emoji. It was hilarious. I mean, we're laughing from the opening scene to the end scene. It shows so much around like being a Black artist and Black creative, the struggle of making art that people want to see, but they don't want to see. You want to see Black stories, you want to see Black people, but you don't want to see Black people. You want to see Black stereotypes. And that's what American Fiction focuses on. He's like, I am a Black writer. I am telling you Black stories. This is my story. And the white people that are buying the stories like, yeah, no, but like, you know what I mean? Like, where's the ghetto? Where's the trauma? Where's the pain? Where's the hurt? And those stories are real and should be shared. But there's other Black stories besides just the hurt and the pain and the trauma. And I think for me as a filmmaker, I've struggled with this because my story and the films I tell aren't necessarily, the Powers type of movies or the Tyler Perry type of movies. And I think those are the movies that do really well on websites like Tubi because people who go to watch those movies are looking for that style of content. My type of films are a little bit more intellectual or a little different and a lot more like the characters that the writer in American Fiction were writing before he got famous. And this just struggle of, do I make the high quality film that I feel like I want to see out there, or do I give the people what they want and go make a gangbang shoot 'em up movie because I could do that too and I could go get a buck for it? And it's a age-old question that a lot of filmmakers, especially Black filmmakers, have to process and work through is, how do I stay true to the stories I want to tell, but also, I mean, this is what's making the most money. So do I want to be an artist that's known for that and profitable, or do I just want to keep making what I'm making, even if no one likes it but me? So American Fiction, I feel like really gave me encouragement as an artist, as a writer, as a filmmaker to say, no, it's okay. You don't have to sell out and make stuff that's popular for the sake of making stuff that's popular. You can double down on what you want to see, but also maybe open your mind to think about how you can bring some of the masses into it. Don't get too obscure that no one can follow you down this road of storytelling. Like, continue to be open to bring people in. Don't shut yourself off and don't close yourself off to your audience. So American Fiction, I'm really thrilled that movie made it all the way to the Oscar stage from an independent movie stage that a lot of studios passed on. So those are my 5 movies from 2023 that inspired me as a filmmaker. So that's Poor Things, A Good Person, They Clone Tyrone, 1001, and American Fiction. If you like more videos like this, where I'll be talking about other movies, breaking down other movies, breaking down my own movies, breaking down experiences I've had on film sets and how I continue to grow as a filmmaker, then follow me on my film journey. Follow my production company, Here and See Productions. Like our Facebook page, Here and See Productions, and subscribe to our YouTube, Here and See Productions, to hear and see what's coming next.